We're shooting scrappers and saving salvage. That's right, it's Horizon Zero Dawn, the board game from Steamforged Games. In this semi-cooperative tactical quest for glory, 1 to 4 players take on the role of hunters in a distant future landscape. By tracking and tackling the many machine quarries of this post-apocalyptic world, hunters use weapons, salvage, and a bit of skill in a competition for glory. The hunter with the most victory points at the end of 5 encounters wins the game. Setup begins with hunter selection. Each player chooses one hunter and takes the corresponding model, profile card, starting equipment cards, shuffled action deck, upgrade cards and skill tree cards, and the starting resource as listed on their profile. Randomly determine one player to take the fledgling token and another to take the leader token. Players set up their starting equipment according to the arcs on each card and place their action deck to one side with room for a discard. Action decks include ammunition cards, ability cards, and interrupt cards. Next, players select their quest, which includes a main quarry, the enemy which the hunters have been charged to defeat by the Hunter's Lodge. In the base game, the quest quarry is the fearsome Sawtooth, but future expansions will include other quests. Create the tracking deck of the quarry by separately shuffling the level 1, 2, and 3 tracking card decks, placing them face down. Then set the shuffled level 1 deck atop the level 2 deck atop the level 3 deck. Then take the Hunter's Call card and place it face down, about 4 card widths to the right of the tracking deck. Separately shuffle and place the Event deck and Salvage deck. Finally, set the Merchant decks face up nearby, separated by levels 1, 2, and 3. Gameplay occurs over 5 encounters, each divided into 3 phases. We got your tracking phase, encounter phase, and campfire phase. First up, in the tracking phase, the holder of the leader token draws 3 cards from the tracking deck, while the fledgling token holder also draws 3 cards, but from the event deck. Both players keep these cards hidden from the other players. They individually select 1 card to play face down on the table. After both players have placed, they reveal the cards simultaneously and set them next in the tracking deck row, with the event card tucked under the tracking card. In the first tracking phase of the game, the fledgling token holder skips this step. Only a tracking card is selected for that first encounter. Discard remaining cards from the game, then follow the selected tracking card to set up the encounter. The event card is a catch-up mechanic that reflects a random occurrence, providing a bonus to the hunter in last place. Each tracking card has an encounter level, encounter layout, which notes the encounter tiles, their alignment, and their configuration. Players set those in the center of the table as listed. Terrain elements, which add a certain terrain token to a square with that icon on certain tiles. Tiles also include printed terrain types. Terrains include tall grass, rocky outcrops, ruins, and a machine corpse. Enemies and their spawning locations, encounter point goal depending on the number of players in the game, and bonus salvage card rewards. If the hunters can kill all enemies in the encounter, they'll each draw this number of bonus salvage cards. Next, beginning with the holder of the leader token, each player places their hunter mini on the tile highlighted in white on the tracker card. These must be placed along the outer edge, and multiple hunters can be on one square. Players then shuffle their personal action decks and draw up to their starting hand limit of 5 cards. Once this encounter setup is complete, the remainder of the phase occurs in turns, beginning with the player who holds the leader token and proceeding clockwise. Each turn is divided into 3 steps: hunter activation, enemy activation, and maintenance. First, in the hunter activation step, the active player may first discard any number of cards from their hand, then draw up to their hand limit. they may perform up to 2 unique actions. Actions include sprint. The hunter may move up to 2 squares in any direction. Any non-alert enemy in an adjacent space to a space moved into or from now becomes alert. More on what that means in a second. Sneak. This allows the hunter to move 1 square in any direction without alerting enemies. Craft. When crafting, the player takes 3 cards from their personal discard and shuffles them back into their action deck. Additionally, a player may spend both their actions on a turn to return 6 cards. Distract. This allows a hunter to choose a target square and non-alert enemy within 2 squares of their mini. The enemy then moves 1 square towards the targeted square. Ranged attack. The player selects an enemy within line of sight and range of their weapon. Weapon cards have a name, range, attack dice, critical hit effect, modification slot, and weapon symbol. Enemies have data cards, which have a type, hit point value, armor, salvage value, glory point value, encounter point value, special rules, and in some cases, components. Components are vital parts of these techno creatures, and an attacker must declare if they're attempting to hit the component or resolving a normal attack. Once decided, they play an ammunition card from their hand that matches their weapon symbol. After applying any abilities or bonuses, they add up the dice shown on their weapon, ammo, and ability card, then roll those bones. If any critical hit symbols are rolled, their effect takes place, then add the number of pips on the rolled side. If the enemy is alert, their armor value is subtracted from this total. Then attack effects and damage are applied. If the damage exceeds their hit points, it's killed and removed from the board. Good job! That player draws the listed number of salvage cards and gains glory points for the kill. Melee attack is very similar to a ranged attack, but can be applied to an enemy either sharing the hunter's square or adjacent, and does not require ammunition. Additionally, if the hunter is attacking into an adjacent square, they move into that square automatically. Some abilities provide free actions which don't take up one of the player's 2 actions in a turn, and they can still only perform 1 of each type of such actions once per turn. And that's the actions. Some concepts I mentioned but didn't explain, so let's do that now. Destroying components. When an attacking hunter chooses to target a component, they deal damage towards its tear value, listed here, instead of towards its hit points. If the damage exceeds the tear value, the component is destroyed and the hunter gains 1 glory and places a destroyed token near the component. They also apply the game effects as listed. If the attack deals at least half, but not all of the tear value, the component is instead damaged, and its tear value is halved for the rest of the encounter. Critical hits come from ammunition or weapon cards, and when rolled on their dice apply specific effects, including bonus damage, the fire condition, freeze, shock, and even area effects. These condition effects vary depending on the recipient. Enemies take different penalties than hunters. Check pages 15 and 18 of the rules for details. Line of sight is required for many ranged attacks. Be sure there's an unbroken line from the center of the attacker square to their target square. If not, they don't have line of sight. After the active player has resolved their 2 actions, the enemy activation step begins. Enemies are always in one of 2 states, either non-alert or alert. Alert enemies activate before non-alerts, and the enemy closest to the active hunter resolves first. Enemies all start as non-alert at the beginning of an encounter. When non-alert, an enemy follows a patrol route like you do during their activation step, using the arrows on the encounter tile to direct their movement 1 space on their activation turn. If they leave a game area, they are gone. The hunters took too long to catch their quarry. When alert, their behavior cards are followed. Behavior cards include actions, either mandatory or conditional, and an attack type with range and damage. Actions are similar to hunter actions, including movement and attacks. When an enemy attacks a hunter, they apply a fixed amount of damage as listed on their behavior card instead of rolling dice. Hunters get to make an evade roll, also listed on their armor card, to avoid this damage, reducing it by the number of pips on the rolled dice. Critical hits rolled this way apply their listed effect and reduce damage based on the armor number. If a hunter takes damage, they must discard one card from their hand or the top of their deck for each point. If they can't discard, or if their action deck is empty, they faint. This would also occur if they need to draw a card and their deck is empty. Fainted hunters are placed on their side and the player must discard all their current glory points. That player also loses their next turn, but stands up on the following turn. Enemies ignore hunters when they've fainted. A revived character then shuffles their discard pile into a fresh action deck. Once all enemies have activated, the maintenance step begins. First, players check to see if they completed the encounter. They count how many faints have occurred throughout the encounter, and if the total between all the hunters equals or exceeds the number of hunters, the encounter ends in failure. Otherwise, players total their encounter points, and if it equals or exceeds the target value on the tracking card, they may end the encounter if they wish. Or they can stay and clean up any remaining enemies for additional glory. If they haven't accrued enough encounter points, or if they just wish to continue fighting, they repeat the encounter phases. If all enemies are killed, players gain the bonus salvage cards and glory, and the encounter ends. Finally, in the campfire phase, the players proceed through 3 steps: victory step, level up step, and merchant step. In the victory step, depending on the number of players, hunters earn sun tokens based on their glory point totals. High scorers gain sun tokens worth end-game victory points. The leader and fledgling tokens are given to the other players. See page 43 of the rulebook for your player count rules. Next, in the level up step, if the hunters have completed an encounter with a higher level than their current skill level as listed on their skill tree, they level up, moving their token on the tree and gaining the new cards into their deck. This also increases their deck size, which will allow them to withstand more damage in future encounters. Then, in the merchant step, hunters can access merchant cards of a level equal to the encounter completed. The associated deck is shuffled and cards are revealed until the following cards have been drawn: 1 weapon, 1 armor, 2 ammunition, 2 modifications, and 1 miscellaneous. Players spend cards with resource values to purchase cards. Beginning with the leader and proceeding clockwise, each hunter may purchase a single card, exchanging cards with those symbols. Additionally, 2 cards of another type can act as 1 resource value of the required type. Players may pass as well to save their resources. Gameplay continues with players tracking, encountering, fighting, and camping. The 5th encounter is the Hunter's Call, and if players fail this, they lose the game. But if they can defeat their main quarry and end the encounter, the game ends in victory. The player who dealt the killing blow to the quarry gets a bonus half-sun token. Players tally their victory points based on their sun tokens: 1 for a half-sun, 2 for a full sun, and 3 for a blazing sun. Although all players have technically won the game, the player with the most points is the first amongst the victors, and tales of their deeds shall be enshrined in legend. And that's the basics of Horizon Zero Dawn, the board game. Alternate game modes and expansions are on the way, so check the links in the description for details. I'm Becca Scott, this is Good Time Society, and you are awesome. How about you hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and come hang out soon on our Discord. We'll see you later.